say we jump in.
All right, man.
Well, I'll start. I'll kind of be bookends on this, and I will be short because I want to give as much time to talking about what impacts ministry. And if you and I, thank you for being here, first of all. We're really grateful that you're here. If you and I have had a chance to talk at all, I think that you've probably heard me or our team say, we see everything that we do as ministry, and we're incredibly grateful for what we do, why we do it, who we get to do it with. I've shared with several of you, we've been doing this for many years, and everything that we want to do, we want to invest in innovation and service for the purpose of advancing the gospel. And so I'm excited to introduce to you something that I think has been, in my opinion, and what I've seen in the church world over the last several years, this has been, and especially really over the last year, there have been major changes in the way that communication is happening. COVID was obviously a catalyst for that. And Mike, I think it was shortly before COVID that you and I have known each other now for 4 or 5 years.
That's right.
We're both based in Dallas. However, I think if we did a nationwide search, we would have landed up on the same desired relationship, looking for best-in-class solutions. And so what's crazy is Mike and his company, they're literally down this tollway right here outside of my window, and he and I have the opportunity to get together on a fairly regular basis and have become good friends. We met about 4 or 5 years ago when your company, Solutions by Text, the parent company, was doing really amazing work in the corporate world for some great organizations, banks, big cool motorcycle companies. We won't name names, but some really amazing strategies to help advance things that are really great brands, but they're not the gospel. And so when we got to know each other, my dream and vision for our partnership was to apply the things that you are doing in corporate America with the churches that we get to partner with and serve. So if you heard any of our banter at the beginning, Mike is a fellow Baylor alumnus, so we share that love and passion. We both have kids that have been involved in worship at the same church for them. Kids that went there. So what I loved about Mike is when I got to know him, his passion for advancing the kingdom and advancing the gospel. I don't know if you're going to share any of your story, Mike, but your parent company has birthed technology that advanced the corporate world. And now Solutions by Text has a separate company that is now Ministry by Text. And it is directly in alignment with our, and hopefully your vision and purpose, just for communicating. Do what you would do if you were able to talk with somebody face to face. Communicate well, engage them where appropriate, be respectful of their time. And so we're going to learn about their best-in-class solutions. This is not a sales pitch for Ministry by Text. Our desire is that you'll pick up some things, be able to apply them if it makes sense. That we want you to engage with his team, but our goal is just for you to grow your ministry. So with that, I want to introduce our premier sponsor at Summit. So Mike, thank you. Our sponsorship is invite only. And so we only have 4 sponsors, and we do it to keep the costs down for our participants, but more importantly, to advance ministry with the people that we feel like are best suited to do that. So I'm excited for you all to have a sneak peek, meet Mike, and see what's going to be shared in September. So Mike, thanks for being here.
Well, Ross, thank you so much for your kind words. And when I see such a large audience that has set aside the time today for this discussion, it just reinforces to me what the interest level is, not only for adding texting to the way that you execute your operation, but also you understand already the importance of it. Now, as Ross had alluded to, we really pride ourselves on educating. We certainly want to tell you about our organization and what makes us different and what makes our solution different. But we want you to be able to evaluate to a small degree today, maybe some of what you're already doing with texting, but also if you're not texting at all, having a line of sight as to how could you get started and what are some of what we describe to be quick wins that you can anticipate. Now, I met many of you at last year's summit because that was our first time to participate, and we're really excited about coming back this year as your premier sponsor. Now, today I'm going to answer some basic questions about texting, and I'm going to lay a foundation to a degree, and then we're going to take a much deeper dive when we get to the user summit in Austin this year. Now, as I always do, there's a lot of this presentation in our time together today that will be interactive. And I want you to be able to experience some of these demos on your own cell phone. So make sure you have your cell phone handy, and we're going to use a few keywords so you can experience this for yourself. Now, the topic that was promoted for our webinar was around why texting, why ministry by text, why integration. And I want to talk to you guys more about these two amazing development teams in our two organizations and the work they've done to integrate the two solutions together so they talk to each other so that everything is documented inside Touchpoint. We'll talk more about that. And then if time permits, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of implementation best practices just to wet your whistle. But truly, it's just the tip of the iceberg on what you can do. So let's get started.
And then Mike, at the end, we're going to have time for Q&A. So I just want to make sure that folks, as you're thinking about it, jot down your questions or put them into the Q&A thing, because we'll have time set aside at the end for that so we can talk specifically about what's on your mind.
No doubt. You guys are going to hear a lot of what I'm talking about that's just going to spark all kinds of questions for you. So go ahead and put those in the Q&A. We may get to a few of those today, and if we don't, then we'll answer more of those at the summit. Now, when I say all the time that texting has emerged as the preferred method of communication, it's true. Now, when you combine the read rate of texting with self-service options, the response rates are just unbelievable. You're going to hear me say today, self-service over and over. This is what your members want. And the use of these smart URLs that bridge to mobile optimized capability, man, the performance is unbelievable. I can tell you that in all my years of business, both in the commercial space and the ministry space, I have never seen a channel of communication perform like text. It's crazy how we've conditioned ourselves to read all of our text messages. Now, I can't take credit for that, but I can certainly show you guys how to leverage this to improve the way you execute. And we're going to talk more about that today. Now, I could spend a lot of time on statistics. I'm a statistics junkie, but I'm not going to. I'm going to refrain. But it is crazy that really 23 billion text messages a day worldwide, 7 billion just in the US alone, north of 7 billion. I think the other really important statistic, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, is that you guys have all kinds of follow-up strategies. And when you're trying to follow up by phone, they're not answering. The more spam phone calls we get, the less people are answering. So the way to capitalize or the way to overcome this, overwhelmingly, it's text. They read all their text messages, and we're going to talk more about that. Now, I'll tell you that in my experience, one of the most significant statistics is this smartphone penetration rate, 93%. I can tell you that when we first started texting, gosh, 2007, I can't believe it's been that long. It was just one-way information text. But now, because of the preference for texting, combined with these self-service, trackable short URLs, so that we can bridge them to all kinds of mobile optimized content, the response rates are just overwhelming. And I'll tell you another very important statistic. In our commercial business, once customers opt in for texting, and then the brands start texting them, the opt-out rate is about 0.5%. In the church and ministry space, excuse me, I said that wrong. In the commercial space, it's about 2%. In the church and ministry space, it's about 0.5%. Once you start texting them, they don't opt out. This is how they want you to communicate with them. Let me continue. Now, ministry by text is a very experienced team. We've got a tremendous amount of experience, not only in implementation, but also in the design of the software. And I want to take just a minute and tell you about our journey and what this journey means for you guys. But to know overwhelmingly that the The purpose of ministry by text is to be a ministry to your ministry. And we want to partner with you guys, just like Ross said, to help take the gospel to the ends of the earth. My brother and I are believers. And when we created this brand Solutions by Text, when we saw texting come on over from the UK in 2007, we started the commercial business. But the same night that we registered the domain name Solutions by Text, well over a decade ago, we registered the domain Ministry by Text, because we knew at some point in time the church and ministry space was going to be ready. But what was so exciting is that the Lord has just blessed our socks off on the commercial side. And we've learned so much over the last decade. And we brought all this enterprise capability over to the ministry space. And we've customized a software just for you guys. Now, 15 years in the space now. But again, we've designed a custom software, and the focus is compliance and ease of use. Let me just make this statement for you guys. Ross alluded to some of the industries that we're servicing, from banks and credit unions and auto finance and so much more that I even have time to talk about. But let me just say this. The same laws and rules for the commercial space and these big brands is the same laws and rules for this industry as well. You got to be careful. You got to think about these text messages to a degree as a loaded gun, and you can't shoot yourself. Now, when I talk about the crazy spam rates with calling, the controls and auditing of this texting gateway is over the top. And these carriers and the regulatory bodies over them are so committed to not letting what happened with email and calling from a spam standpoint happen in the texting space. Now, for your organization and most organizations, when they're ready to get started, this usually takes them to the United States Short Code Registry. Now, this is where all brands go to find providers, and then also a 5 or a 6-digit short code. And when you get out here, you're going to find all kinds of application providers that resell other people's software. But at the highest level, at this premium partner level, at the United States Short Code Registry, this is where you're going to find West, Waterfall, Twilio, and this is where you'll find Solutions by Text. We're one of the biggest enterprise level operators of SMS. The process of provisioning a 5-digit short code is all part of the services that we choose. So don't be concerned by that. Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that you can anticipate also is the process that we go to get you started. Now, when we come alongside our partners, we call this build, operate, transfer. We're going to build specific project plans around what we already know to be your primary initiatives inside the church. Because my brother and our entire staff are believers and we've grown up in the church, we know what that church model looks like, and we know all the different points of communication. And we see this awesome expansion of sub ministries as well. Just at my church alone, to see the Stephen ministry and the cancer care ministry and Celebrate Recovery and so much more inside your church. We have a blueprint for execution that accommodates and includes all of your operation, but we customize it. I'll say this: it's not enough to know what to do. It's important to do it in the right order. So we're going to come alongside you guys while that short code is being provisioned. We go to work. We're going to build your project plan with you. We're going to operate it with you. And when you're ready, we're going to transfer capabilities inside Touchpoint and inside the Ministry by Text solution as well to you guys, so that you can operate it, own it, and more importantly, control this texting. See, the reality is, what we know is, in many operations, there's a lot of texting already happening, but it's not happening through a single source of truth. And this concerns me, because our software, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment, controls and manages all the permission requirements, all the compliance requirements. And it concerns me that texting is happening inside church operations with multiple solutions and these compliance requirements are being compromised. All your texting needs to be going through a single source of truth. And more importantly, you need to have that flexibility so that if a life group director leaves a life group and you've got 90 people opted in and you put a new director in there, you can't have a disruption of communication. You need to have these controls and you need to have a line of sight to all the texting that's going on inside your church or your organization. Now, I'll tell you that when we lay a foundation from a build, operate, transfer standpoint, that always begins with us with what we call the pillars of implementation at Ministry by Text. This is the foundation. We know that your members are already at different participation levels inside your church and organization. And regardless of where they are, we're going to use texting to support and nurture this progression of membership inside your church. Now, for us, most of the time that begins with just increasing or boosting the attendance, just them coming. And then they'll see you engage them by text. And once they engage, we want to help them get to other ministries and sub ministries inside your operation. Then we want to help them find their place to serve. And then no doubt there is granularity and layers to your giving strategy. I don't even have time to begin to uncrack this, but I can't wait for you to see this portion of the blueprint. Now, discipleship is near and dear to my heart. We want to show you guys how to use texting to empower and equip your members to be saints and disciples, and take this amazing video content, this sermon series content that you guys already have. We want to show you how to package it with keywords and equip your members to be disciples. There's a lot here that we'll talk about together when we get to the summit. And then finally, just in the foundation alone, we have strategies around outreach. Now, in the church and ministry space, this is like your marketing. We have specific strategies for outreach and also for online church. We want to help you guys transition people from online to on campus. But also, if they're going to remain to just be an online member, how do you nurture that too? Well, you do that by text. Now, let's take a little bit closer look at the touch point integration and how our two worlds communicate with each other. Once you get all your members opted in, we'll talk more about that in a moment, then you begin to build an organization structure around your operation. And then also that organization structure is transparent in both Touchpoint and our solution as well. And then once that organization structure is built, one of the awesome things that Touchpoint has designed for you guys is Query Builder. Now, you may already be using this, but now they've taken it to another level where you can run a query of members that meet specific criteria and create a campaign for text. And then you can pick the group or the layer of segmentation in your org structure where you want to send it. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Usually the texting strategy always begins with church-wide communication. Now, the integration and configuration setup inside Touchpoint is smooth and easy. Once that happens, we're going to hyper focus on assisting you with church-wide communication. This is where it begins. Now, you can do a contact import into the Ministry by Text side so that when you send your campaigns, every message can be customized. You could be sending a message to 17,000 members from the pastor, and that message can be customized by name. The two softwares are in synchronization. Let me make this statement as well, because this is a common question. The answer is yes. Every message that leaves Touchpoint or is sent by anyone in your organization can map back through to Touchpoint so that every message out and every response or reply to a text message is mapped back to the member record. Now, I'll say that on several occasions also because what we know is when you start texting your members, they text you back, and you need to be ready. You need to have strategies around two-way texting. Now, the process of getting your church-wide communication loaded is a two-step process. And this is one of the two best practices that I want to share with you guys today to take away. It begins by focusing and utilizing the sermon series and the pastor. We help you guys combine their interest in the sermon series with church-wide notification, and this drives your opt-ins much more. You have the ability to query the Touchpoint software with all your existing active members. The church-wide initiative begins with all of your existing customers, your existing members, and then how do you organically scoop up new members and guests all along the way? Now, with the integration, you can query Touchpoint of all your active members, and we can load them into a church-wide group. Now, from a compliance standpoint, our software is automatically going to send a welcome message and tell them that they're going to receive messages about the church. And all the compliance language will be there. Message and data rates may apply. What's the frequency of messaging? And most importantly, how do they opt out? To opt out, reply, stop. Now, when this process happens, our software scrubs all of those phone numbers. And if it's not a live, valid cell phone number, it won't create a subscription. Those that are valid cell phones will receive that opt-in message. And as long as they don't reply stop, you can begin to text them. This is called the existing relationship law that allows you that if a member has given you a cell phone number in conjunction with their relationship with your organization, you can communicate to them on that number. But you want to tell them that they've been opted in and then how to opt out if they don't want this messaging. Now, once you've opted in your legacy customers, we encourage you to use the sermon series to constantly invite other people to get themselves opted in. Now, this is the interactive portion of our time together today. So grab your cell phone. The ministry by text short code is 77007. So you're just going to initiate a brand new text message to the number 77007. And I just want you to text the word series. Now, when you text the word series, we're going to deliver for you a video of one of our church partners and how they're promoting getting opted in for texting at their church. And then the sample message that you see here today has URLs. And I'll tell you that, gosh, I bet 98% of the messages that we see going out of the gateway now have at least one smart URL in there. Now, when you watch that video from one of our church partners, you're also going to hear them talk about their digital bulletin. There is so much I want to share with you guys. I don't have time together today, but man, I can't wait till we get to the summit, because what I want to give you guys the confidence of knowing that one of our hyper focuses with all of our partners is to show you and provide you all the capabilities that we've designed together with Touchpoint and provide all these capabilities to you guys at no cost. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, we have a lot of success in this, and it oftentimes begins with your Sunday bulletin. You'll hear one of our church partners, Chase, talking about everyone opting in, and then also receiving the new digital bulletin. I want you guys to experience this yourself. We hyper focus on things you're printing and trying to decrease that print cost. We've got multiple churches that don't print any Sunday bulletins anymore. It's all digital. And once you get your entire church opted in, every Saturday, here comes the text message. Can't wait to have you back on campus. Pastor's going to continue his sermon series. Click here for the sermon notes. And here is the Sunday bulletin. Okay, you got to experience this for yourself. Go to that last text message, 77007. Text the word guide. I want you to see this for yourself on your phone and envision if you guys are still printing bulletins, or for those of you that have already made the conversion to digital bulletins, check this digital bulletin out. and we've got templates on how we want to help you. Now, with a little bit of time I have left, I want to talk about what we see to be another challenge inside every church operation and another best practice. And we call this your guest follow-up drip. Everybody wants to connect with those guests that are sitting out there. Sometimes it's the first time they've been there. Sometimes they've been coming for months and they've never engaged you. We want to teach you guys how to use the keyword connect. And every time you're doing your announcements, you're going to tell them, we want to connect with you. We want to answer all your questions. We want to serve you. Grab your cell phone and text the word connect. Now, when they do, you're going to deliver, just like this sample message on your screen, a digital connection form. No more perforated cards on any bulletins. Everything's digital. They can click that URL, fill out the digital form so they can give you the information, but then they need to get a message from the pastor that tells them, we're going to connect with you. We're so glad you came. You're going to get a series of messages. And this series of messages, and folks, let me tell you, we've got a massive message template library. This particular guest follow-up drip, we've already written all the messages for you. You're going to tell them about your beliefs. We're going to connect them to the sermon series video library. And then we're going to start sending them text messages with short URLs to invite them to come sign up for your new membership workshop. It's an automated text follow-up process to engage your guests and then walk them into new membership workshop. I want you to experience this for yourself. Grab your phone again, 007. This time text the word connect. I want you guys to see a sample video from Pastor Jack Graham at Prestonwood, one of our partner churches, and how he talks about this first welcome message when they hit that word connect, and he's explaining to them, you're going to get a series of messages. We can't wait to meet you in person. We can't wait to see you in new membership workshop. Man, does it work. And you guys are going to love it. But now let me tell you about how we combine features and capabilities together. When they text the keyword connect, we're also going to capture those cell phone numbers. And every day on Monday, when you guys are executing your follow-up strategies, and customarily you're calling to follow up, now you're going to text. And even though they're getting the text drip, we're going to equip you guys with two-way texting capabilities. These are direct chat capabilities inside Touchpoint. This is one of the integration elements that, I'll be honest with you, I'm one of the most excited about. Because our software is built with microservices, this allowed us to take this two-way texting tool that we've created and plug it right into Touchpoint. So now inside Touchpoint, you can use pre-written templates to follow up on Monday with all those guests and just see if they have any questions right now that you can answer. And watch what happens. They'll engage you, and you can have text chat and service and serve them through a texting solution. This capability is a micro front end and plugs in to Touchpoint, so you can use it from right within Touchpoint. You know, these are just two examples today of what the implementation blueprint looks like in your partnership with Ministry by Text. Church-wide communication, guest follow-ups, and two-way texting. Now, once you get everybody opted in for church-wide communication, we're going to teach you another technique called waterfall. And this is how you're communicating with your Sunday bulletins, but then we'll also prompt them, we need people to serve. If you're interested in finding your place to serve, reply serve to this message. And that will cascade and waterfall them down into another journey or text experience so they can find their place to serve. So that's all part of the 6 pillars of implementation. We've got a plan and we got a lot of experience, and we want to come alongside you guys. Now, I want to answer a few of these questions before they're even asked, because I know that lots of there's capabilities out there, services out there, and the economics model is a little bit different. Here's what I want you to know about our relationship with Touchpoint. because of our success in the commercial space, we want to bring this solution over to the ministry space and leverage all that we've learned. Our service inside Touchpoint comes with unlimited keywords, unlimited groups, unlimited contacts. All the compliance messaging is complimentary because we know that the law says you have to send these compliance messages. Every time somebody gets opted into a group, they have to receive these compliance messages. And if they opt out or reply stop, our software is going to manage that. And if they reply stop to messages from the middle school, it's going to tell them you'll no longer get messages from the middle school. To cancel all messages from your church, reply stop all. We're going to manage all of that for you. Now, our attention to compliance is over the top. And one of the things I want you guys to know that makes us different is we also monitor reassigned and deactivated numbers. When I first started texting in 2007, it was 90 to 120 days that if Ross turned his cell phone number off and gave it back to Verizon, that they would reissue that to somebody else. Now that's as short as 3 days. I want you guys to know the extent from a compliance standpoint that we're committed to protecting you guys. We're monitoring this massive amount of data from the carriers every night. And if they turn their cell phone off, that's like a stop command. Now, if it's temporarily disrupted until they make a payment, we're going to know that. I'm talking about if they give their cell phone number back and it's going to be reassigned, we're going to detect that. We treat that like a stop command and we'll take them out. That's just one example of our commitment to you guys from a compliance standpoint. Well, I knew our time would run out, Ross. My gosh, there's so much more I'd love to say today, but I'm going to hold as much as I can for the summit, and I'll look forward to meeting so many of you out there. But let's go to that Q&A time, Ross, and let's see if we can answer some of those questions today.
That sounds good. Mike, thank you. So much of what we do together, there's not really an option for it. And so a lot of what you're hearing today is available kind of only through our partnership. And I don't say that because I'm trying to advance ministry by text. I'm saying that because you just can't do this thing. You know, the closest I've seen is folks trying to do it on their own. And the more I learn about what you're doing with compliance and content and segmentation and those things, the more I realize the value of it. So Mike, thank you. There are a couple questions coming in. Please take a moment and jot in your questions. David, I see yours coming in specifically about the topic we just talked about. We'll get right to it. But before we do, I want to invite you to share your questions in the Q&A. But I want to start, Mike, by just affirming what I hear you say. You come from the commercial space. My background is serving nonprofit organizations. And now I'm been working in the church space for many years. The concept of the law of diffusion of innovation, are you familiar with that? The innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, all the way down to the laggers. In the laggards. Yeah, the commercial space, you're probably seeing text adoption and application being late majority, probably early majority, late majority, but most people are doing it. Not everybody's doing it well. In the nonprofit world, I would say that we are in kind of the early adopters, early majority.
Yes.
And when you were at Summit last year, we were hardly scratching the surface of innovators. The best that I saw was churches that had discrete areas where they were doing texting. Since the last Summit, I think about 10% of the churches that we work with have engaged ministry by text. Mm-hmm. Many of it engaged Twilio, but I would say most of what we talked about today, they're not doing well, maybe outside of possibly compliance if it's automated. But with, we're seeing that we're already getting into the early adopters in the church segment. I just say that because it's moving quickly in this direction, and we're seeing a lot of churches do it. So here's my first question as we have a few come in. I hear this as I engage with church leaders on a fairly regular basis. Help us understand the difference between short codes and long codes. If you would take a minute to explain, are there strategies where one's better than the other? I know there are cost differences. Help us understand short codes versus long codes.
Sure. Well, the industry has evolved over the last decade, right? And just know that the industry designed short codes for brand to consumer texting. When we're texting each other, this is called peer-to-peer. And that's when it comes across 10-digit numbers. The short code world was designed for brands to consumers or churches to their members. Now, in many instances, just like it happens in the marketplace, people begin to find workarounds to use a peer-to-peer network for commercial utilization. And because the carriers are so committed to keeping spam out of the space, they began to allow for shared short codes so that many brands could use the same short code and keep the cost down. They have now come back and said they are sunsetting shared short codes, and your two options are either a dedicated short code or now um, uh, an approved provisioned, they call them 10 DLC now. So you can text over 10 digits, but you have to go through the approval process. You can't just grab any 10-digit number, load it in a Gatling gun. And in many instances, what I saw at Touchpoint, there would be multiple long codes in the account and it's just firing away. Now the carriers have cranked up the audits and they're spamming this messaging, especially messages on 10-digit numbers that have a short code. Excuse me, 10-digit numbers that have a short URL. This is where most of the spam activity is happening right now. It's 10-digit numbers with short URL. Now, what we're showing our church partners is use this preferred gateway that the carriers have designed for this kind of enterprise texting. Your delivery rates are through the roof. Every keyword that you can imagine is available on that keyword. And there's a lot of the implementation strategy, Ross, that's keyword driven. And to promote keywords over a 10-digit number is clunky, to say the least. This short code becomes an extension of your brand. And if you'll just trust us and have the confidence of knowing, and I can share references with you of our church partners that will tell you that the savings they're experiencing with savings in print cost dwarfs the cost of everything that they're doing with ministry by text, including the cost of that short code. So I'm telling you,
I want to come back to costs in a minute because there are questions around that. But before we do, Amanda's asking about how do you get a short code? What's that process? What's the timing? Kind of talk us through what that might look like.
you bet. When one of our client partners come on board, they go to our website and say, this is the plan we want to roll with. It sends us a notification. We have a welcome call, and then we pick your short code with you. And then we handle all the provisioning. We provision dozens of short codes every week. And we already have templates and process provisioning these for provisioning these short codes with all the carriers. It's part of the service that we provide. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get one of these codes live with all the carriers. We handle the briefs, the submissions, and the audits when they happen. It's all part of our service, Ross.
Gotcha. Next question is around kind of segmentation and micro segmentation.
Sure.
How does it work communicating, weekend messages versus men's ministry? And then how do we track that information as it relates to me as a member or a staff member as a user? Talk us through segmentation and lists?
Yeah, I'm not sure who asked that question, but that's a good one. Because we have so much experience in this, every layer of segmentation's got a name. So it might be middle school, it might be men's ministry, it might be church-wide, it might be Celebrate Recovery. Every message you send begins with the group or ministry that it's coming from. Every layer of your org tree, the subscribers that go with that ministry live in that group. Now you can send a message to one person or a few people in that group, or you can send a message to the entire group. But when the message comes, it'll begin with Celebrate Recovery and the information about that you're extending to them. And then if they reply stop, it'll only take them out of that group. And then if they reply stop all, it'll take them out of all the groups that they've opted into, Ross.
So to get into Celebrate Recovery's list, I might see a promo or a QR code, or you might send a general thing to everybody to invite them into a list. And then from that point, they're on Celebrate Recovery and the general list as long as they haven't unsubscribed.
You know, in the churches, what we're seeing is in the digital bulletin, they're promoting Celebrate Recovery, right? For more information, text the word celebrate. Now, you might text that word celebrate and it tells you where they meet and what the times are. And then the first time you go to Celebrate Recovery, they're promoting that you text the word recovery. Now, that's an opt in keyword for Celebrate Recovery so you can get the ongoing messages. There's a combination of keywords right here, Ross.
So I text recovery, I'm opted into that list. I text stop, I'm out of that list. I text stop all, I'm out of all of the lists. I hope that, yeah.
You got it. Now, I'll tell you, it's so commonplace when I walk around churches now. Everybody's got these beautiful monitors and these slides are just going back and forth. And this is where they're promoting all the sub ministries and all the keywords. The average church that we're partnered with now has probably got 100 keywords in play, from baptism to Celebrate Recovery to I just made a decision for Christ. Text the word decision. It is just on and on. It's keyword driven, and keywords over short code, Ross.
So you just answered my next question that I was going to ask you, just around kind of some examples to get our minds thinking about ministry. Like, what are some keywords that we're finding to be really effective? I hear you say decision or baptism, or are there others that you've seen?
Oh gosh, it's endless. I'll tell you that if you were sitting in Prestonwood, you'd see Jack Graham standing up there and he would say over and over, if you just made a decision for Christ today or you've recommitted your life, we want to follow up with you. Text the word decision. Now, we've created this notification functionality where, based on the keyword they text, it'll send a notification to the right follow-up person in your church organization if you're following up on a decision, or if they text the word baptism because they want to get baptized. Whoever you need to route that follow-up to, it's automated and automatic through texting. You can receive that notification by email or by text for follow-ups. Now, as far as other keywords that we see, finding a life group is such a big deal, right? We see all the time, text the word group, find your life group. That's very commonplace. Now, the other keywords that we see are called connect cards, Ross. Everybody that's an influencer in your church, whether they're a deacon, a director, a staff person. For instance, if you go back to 007 and you text the word Cantrell, it's going to send you all my life group details because I want to invite you to my life group and I want you to be able to find the life group. Gosh, Ross, the keyword strategies are just unlimited, buddy.
So I have two. I know we're up against it, so I'm going to tell you my last two questions, and I'll make it a two-part question and ask it in one fell swoop. First one is around budget, and this was asked a couple different ways. What does it cost? How should I budget? What's total cost of ownership? And the second is kind of related. If I'm using Twilio, then what? Is it hard to, like, how does it compare? How do I switch? So cost and Twilio are kind of the two sides of this last question.
You bet. Let me address cost first. When you go to the Ministry by Text website and you see the Get Started, you're going to see a variety of plans. And I have small cowboy churches with 30 members that are on a $25 a month plan on a 10-digit number. But for all the touch point clients that we're doing business with, because we know that you need your own short code, and I'm going to defray all this cost, you'll see a plan that begins with build and then partner. And then we even have a feeding the 5,000 plan. That's 500,000 messages a month. You get a outbound text message allotment with the plan. And then there's a rate if you go over. That's all very transparent on the website. And you can start with the lowest short code plan, which is called build. And then when you get to a certain level of texting, you can upgrade and you can upgrade again. It's a progressive model. Now, with Twilio, what we see, first of all, my biggest concern with Twilio, and I've seen this across all the different spaces, is they have not transitioned to these provisioned 10 DLC numbers. So the messages are just spamming like crazy. We've even completed the integration, Ross, with Touchpoint, so that even the messages that come out to your lay people in the church that says it's time to do your attendance, click here, that's coming on your short code as well. So all you do is go and pick a plan. It'll notify us. We'll pick your short code, put it in the oven, and then we'll transition your account to a verified 10DLC number so that we can remove that Twilio number that you have in place. And while your short code is coming live, if you need to do some attendance messaging and so forth, we can allow for that as well. So it's an easy process that just begins by picking your plan, and then we'll pick your short code.
So Mike, you're doing things that nobody else is doing in this space. It felt like we did a lot of education around things that are possible, but from my perspective, they're really only possible through our partnership because we haven't seen anybody else who's doing this. A year ago, we didn't have any churches that were doing this. I think by the time we get out of Summit, we're going to go past innovators, past early adopters, and by definition, the first 16%, you get beyond that and you're into the early majority. So for those of you that are on the call, thanks for just joining and learning and seeing how we deal with some of the basic stuff like compliance, but more importantly, the ministry stuff like how do you get the 8th grade boys message to the 8th grade boys? And how do you do it in a way that's compelling, interactive, that you drive people to their files and to their registration forms where they're known. When I click on that link, it knows who I am and it drives them into the app. Ministry by Text is a great partner. Mike, thanks for your time today. And for those that joined, thank you for your time today too. We're grateful for you.
Ross, if I could, my final thought for you guys today is if you text the word touchpoint to 007, you're going to receive a copy of this video recording, and then you'll receive some additional resources as well. I can't tell you how thankful I am for the time today, and I can't tell you how excited we are about being at Summit.
All right. If you haven't signed up for Summit, I've got to do a shameless plug. We hope to see you at Summit. Some of the extracurricular things are filling up. Like I think the bat cruise is either full or it's almost full. You can always see the bats from the bridge on your feet or whatever. But if you haven't signed up, please do. We hope to see you there. Thanks for your time today. Mike, again, thanks to you and your team.
You bet. Thanks, Ross. You guys have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye for now.